What's up, everybody? It's your girl Amber, and we are here for the first live episode of the Bigger Than Me show. This is a special one. I'm gonna give y'all a second to join me, and we're gonna put this phone in airplane. Alrighty, I'm back. So I'm here a couple minutes early. Give everybody a chance to join us. I'm so excited, y'all. Put this fan on too, so I don't have a heat stroke. Hey, we're about to get started in just a second. I am Meridians. I pray I'm pronouncing that right. I tell y'all all the time, I'm terrible with names. I cannot be a politician. But can't we all just get along? We'll be starting literally in 2 minutes. We'll be discussing various viral videos and what they mean regarding the battles of the generations and honestly the sexes. Lamar Lyons, thank you so much for joining us. And I do apologize for that. Because I messed up your name, you'll be the first one to get a question in once we get started in just a minute here. I thank you so much for joining us. Please share it with everybody. Share it on Twitter. Share it on your Instagram. You can't really share it on TikTok. Share it on Facebook if you still got it. This is going to be a good one with my special guest, Mr. Captain Hunter. He will be joining us today as well. Yes, yes. Also, great. I'm about to say, can you hear me? I'm assuming you can since you said hi, it's all good. Okay, so we're going to get started in literally just a second here. This is going to be a good one, y'all. I can feel it. It feels good to be back. Y'all don't know how good it feels to be back, boy. Alrighty. See here. Ooh, this is going to be a good one. Alright, well, it's 7:30, so we're going to get started. So first off, my name is Amber Gardner. I am the host of Bigger Than Me, the podcast. And I will actually am going to be inviting my friend, Mr. Captain Hunter, now. Today, the topic is, can't we all just get along? It's looking at the battle between the generations and the sexes to a certain degree. All right, so let me add my boy onto here. See if he'll come here and join us. Invited him. He'll be joining us in a second here. Bobby Johnson, I'm glad for you to join us. We just got started. I just invited my partner, Mr. Captain Hunter, who is the co-host of this episode, to join us, and he'll be joining us literally in just a second here. Alrighty. There he go. There he go, right there. I'm bringing him on now. These are the videos we'll be addressing. Miss Kim Burrell, the graduate, and of course, my boy TD Jakes. Alrighty. Alright, Captain Hunter will be joining us in just a second here. Alright, please invite everybody you can. But we're going to have a good conversation today. We're going to keep it all the way 100. Alrighty. Just waiting for him to join us right now. Bobby, please tell me, where are you from? We'd like to do shout outs around here before we get started. So please put where you're from in the chat. Hey, Mr. Hunter, can you hear me?
I can. How you doing?
I'm good. Woo. I was just getting you added and getting everything moving forward so we can get started. Bobby, please tell me where you're from. I think we got a little bit of echo in the background. Is everything okay?
Yeah, everything's good now. Yeah.
All right, perfect. It's all good. So let us get started. Well, first, everybody, y'all really do not understand how good it is to have this man back here with me. He was one of the first live appearances I did for podcasting. I still remember this to this day. It was 2 years ago, beginning of the pandemic, and I came on one of his panel discussions on Facebook, and I loved it. And it was my first kind of introduction into like the whole live podcasting thing. I had watched plenty of them. I had never did one. So I appreciate you in a way that I don't think you will ever know, because you introduced me to a lot of this. But I've said a lot. I've said enough. Please tell the people a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me once again. My name is Lawrence Hunter. I sometimes go by the name of Captain Hunter because I started a podcast called Captain Hunter's Podcast. I'm a retired police captain from Waterbury, which is in Connecticut. I was there for 24 years, retired in good standing. Excuse me, I got gum in my mouth. I know it's coming out here. um, so yeah, I retired from law enforcement about 3 years ago. Started a consulting business, and I've been doing that ever since. I'm adjunct professor at a couple of colleges. Well, it was not. It was two before. Now I'm down to one, so I'm looking for more of those. Started a consulting business, trying to get into police expert testimony. So just things along those lines. That's kind of just a little glimpse about what I've done. My time in law enforcement, I taught few classes, implicit bias training. I taught human behavior, which is essentially psychology. Excuse me. I taught even now in retirement. I still teach a couple of classes. I know with the George Floyd protests and things. So Connecticut started some new classes for police recruits, procedural justice. I teach that. I teach history of policing up until the civil rights movement. So I take it, how law enforcement developed in the United States. So those are two classes. They started 4 classes, but I only took 2 of them. Like, listen, I'm full up, with my plate. So that's just a little bit about me and what I've done and what I'm doing. And so that's just it. So that's just a little small glimpse into what I've done.
Okay, well, we definitely love to hear it. And one thing I love that you said is I don't think people really understand how much psychology plays a part in podcasting and like any industry, really. I have a bachelor's in journalism, but I also took an area of concentration in psychology. And it's helped me greatly in every sector that I've stepped my foot into. There has not been a business or a field I've stepped my foot into where psychology did not play some type of a part, because you have to know how to read your room and what people are thinking and how to gather that even when they don't say it, which is part of what psychology is, body language and things of that nature and triggers and etc. So yes, I'm very much happy to have you here, and we're going to hop into it. We got a few people that have joined, so we're going to hop into it. So for those wondering where did this come from, it is very, very simple. I'm a very outspoken person, respectful but outspoken. Mr. Hunter had put up a post regarding a young lady giving some of her professors the hand at her graduation. It's actually the video that just played behind me. And we had opposing views on it. And it was interesting to see the difference and, being able to agree to disagree, but seeing how there was the difference in viewpoint. And I was like, this would actually make a great discussion for a live podcast, talking about the differences in the generations. And, as the week and time went on, other stuff started going viral. So it's like, well, you know what? Let's just make it a discussion about, various reasons why generations, genders have issues getting along and how we can try to fix that. So that's how we came up with, can't we all just get along? It's like, how can we fix this? So to start off, Mr. Hunter, I would like to get your views on the first video that we're going to touch on, which is the young lady putting her hand in the face of her professors. To give y'all, because the video is playing behind me, it's kind of like a trailer, so they're going kind of fast. But to give a brief summary, she basically kind of goes like this to her professors. And apparently what was stated was that she felt like they had made her senior year very difficult. And that was the reason behind her response. But I don't like to do too well. I take that back. I do like to talk, but we're gonna make this a fair discussion. Mr. Hunter, what made you put up a video on your podcast page to actually discuss this video to begin with? Because some people would just look at it, laugh at it, or shake their heads and go on about their business.
Sure. Yeah. So it's a good question. So, I started a podcast that was essentially talking about bridging the divide between the police and the community, right? So I would talk to the police, like, here's the things that the police need to change, right? There's a perception problem, issues of transparency. So let's talk about it, right? So that always doesn't go over well, And then I also wanted to talk to the public too, right? So when you're riding around and doing whatever you're doing, you want to make sure that you are, clean, that you're respectful, not only to your fellow man, but also to the police officers when and if you ever confront them. So now I'm actually kind of breaking those two. I'm going to break those up into 2 platforms. One, I'm just going to speak specifically to the police, and the other one, I'm going to speak specifically to young men. And I think that it's really, really important to talk to young men and to the younger people. I'm talking, younger than me. I'm 49, so so I want to, try to help the younger generation, those who don't have fathers and all that, to or positive role models, in order to have someone to talk to them, so they can kind of look up to if they if they want to. So I posted a video on my TikTok page and on the Instagram page about this particular video, and there's a lot of things that bothered me about it. So first thing that bothered me about it was the fact that she did it. So she, the caption said, because that made my senior life night a living hell. And so if it cut me off if I start talking too much. So first of all, someone was video recording this. Now I'm sure the people are going to video their nieces, nephews, whatever, when they're walking across the stage. But it's my thought that she planned, that she told her family she was going to do this. That's just what I thought. I'm going to disrespect these people. I could be wrong about that, but this is just where my mind went. And then, of course, she did it. Now, she walks across the stage, and if you watch the video, it's the majority of the people who are there are African American. So this is a black girl disrespecting black school officials, administrators, etc. And I realized that she may have thought that they made her life a living hell, but I just don't buy that. I just don't buy the argument that we're all that police, school teachers, doctors, whoever are waking up every morning saying, "I'm going to make your life a living hell." I just don't buy that. So and then people have to take responsibility for their own actions. I wasn't there, so I don't. But I would question, how many times did she come in late? How many times did she disrespect them, not handing homework assignments, whatever they did? We don't know what it took to make her life a living hell. So that was the second point. We can dig into any of this a little further if you like. But the third point I had was that with the place that I saw this was Black Excellence page on Instagram, where a page where they're supposed to highlight Black excellence, and they put this on there. That is the antithesis, the exact opposite of what Black excellence should be. I want to see pictures of Black excellence, whether it's families, whether it's people actually graduating, whether it's whatever, something to show we're opening up businesses, all that, things that show Black excellence. We have enough ratchet foolishness out here that we can watch that continues to paint us in a bad light. So those are my three biggest issues. You want to dig into them, but those are the reasons that I thought that this needed to be addressed, because this is unacceptable.
Okay, so I will say this in response to that. I love the fact that you articulated that in a manner that was very, just communicating it, well, which is one thing I love. One thing I say this, I do agree with you that, because I had forgot that it originally went viral on the Black Excellence channel. So I will agree with you. I do not think that's the place to post a moment like this. As real as this moment was and authentic as it was, that was not the platform for it. I would expect this to probably go on maybe the Shade Room first, or TMZ, something like that first, before I see it going on the Black Excellence page. So I definitely do agree with you on that. Now, regarding the other part, that is kind of where I think we differ, only because of this. I see both sides. And when I say that, what I mean is this: I'm 27, and I have grown up in a very kind of, I guess, well, I wouldn't say I was sheltered. I'll take that back. But I've grown up in a very structured type setting for the most part. Grew up in church, pew baby, et cetera, et cetera. I know for me, so you already know where I'm about to go. Pew baby, that's what we call it. PEW baby, pew baby, born on the pew, front row. Father was the minister of music back in the day. Mother was missionary. So I was at church every day, not every. I got one day off. That was Monday. That was it. I was there every other day. So and this will come up later on with some of the two other videos we'll be addressing, but you see some stuff. And one thing I noticed is, and this is my opinion, my personal opinion, is anybody is free to disagree with me on this. I feel like in the community, especially the Black community in particular, respect is a one-sided street. I rarely hear older people in our community discussing the fact that I have been disrespected by more people that had authority over me and were older than me than I have people my own age. And if I were to say something and retaliate, she's a bad seed. She got too much mouth. She don't know her place. She don't know this. She don't know that. It was rare that somebody would see the fact of, well, you're coming at her sideways purely because you can. And they didn't see it as disrespect because a lot of times that's how they were brought up too. And it's just like, well, you want somebody to give you something that you are not giving yourself. And her being a senior and graduating, I could imagine there was a sense of freedom, like, okay, I'm not up under these people no more. So whatever was going on between her and those people, I got the freedom now to speak up for myself without being worried about them retaliating and affecting my grades, retaliating when it comes to my recommendations, retaliating when it comes to if they'll help me get the internship I need. And I'm not saying everybody is like this. What I am saying is, unfortunately, power can have a bad effect on people. And I've seen that happen from the schoolyard all the way to the church house. And people get power and they just want to act however they want, treat you however they want because you're younger. And, in the Black community, it's always, stay in the child's place. This grown folks' business. Your parent can be wrong sometimes, and your parent don't apologize. They buy you something to make up for it because they know they wrong. But apologizing is showing a lack of power. You won't respect me no more if I admit I was wrong for how I came at you because I had a bad day at work. It wasn't really your fault, but I can't tell you that. So I see it really from both sides. Now, was this the place to do it? No, it was not. This was not the place for that. It would have been better to maybe have a conversation. Now, some adults ain't trying to have that conversation because they're in the thought process of, I'm grown and I'm going to be the one in the right regardless. If that's the type of person you're dealing with, then you got to kind of just take that L and keep that negative energy away from you. That's what I've started to do. There are some adults that I grew up around. I don't interact with them no more. And I'm an adult now, but they older than me. So there's still that level of, okay, I have to respect you because you're older, but I know you don't like me. As much as you claim it ain't a problem, your actions tell me you don't like me. So me and you say hi and we say bye and we keep it pushing. Because I don't got time for that.
So looking back,
Sure.
and your time in high school, my time in high school, do
Mm-hmm.
you? And you're older now. You're seasoned. You've been out of high school roughly 8, 9, 10 years.
Correct.
Do you think? Do you look back and say those teachers didn't like me, or were they trying to hold me to a standard?
Oddly enough, my experience from the high school, because I went to two high schools. I did my first 2 years at one high school, and then I had to leave and go to a second high school because I went through a bout of a mild depression during my sophomore year that affected my grades. And the special program I was in had to let me go. I had to switch schools. With that being said, my teachers took me under their wing like nobody else could. My mother and I went through a very hard time in my last couple years of high school. I was homeless for my senior year. My teacher let me put my bags in her office. My principal became aware. To this day, I'm pretty sure my principal paid for my class ring. They gave me recommendation letters to get into schools. One of them hooked me up with a shopping spree from a bank to get the stuff I needed from my dorm room because they knew we were broke. They really took me under their wing. So now, were there moments that they had some tough love moments with me? Yeah, but I knew it was coming from a place of love for the fact that they knew my situation and they were determined for me to make it despite my circumstances.
Okay, so let's bring us to this late to her. Do
Sure.
you think that in a few years, 10 years removed from high school, do you think that she'll have the same attitude that, hey, listen, you know what? These teachers didn't, they actually didn't like me, or they were really trying to hold me back?
That's a good question. I think when she gets older, she may look at it more of their intentions were pure, even if the way they went about it was not. Because sometimes we get our intentions and how we actually handle it mixed up. The intentions are good, but we don't know how to go about it in the most productive manner. I think sometimes people treat everybody like a one size fits all, and what works for one won't work for the other one. Tough love may work better for this one than that one, and vice versa.
And that, I think that that's the point, and that's the point. And again, I'm speculating.
Of course.
I freely admit that I'm speculating, but I assume that she told people that she was going to do this. Now, if she and if she did, and nobody corrected her, nobody stopped her, then that's a problem. To
That
this
is.
day, And to this day, I haven't seen any type of retraction or any type of video saying I should not have done this. And I think that that's problematic. Why is it problematic? Because again, this was viral. We
It did.
Social media has an influencing factor and effect upon other people. If little people are seeing this, 10-year-olds, her nieces, her nephews, her cousins, her little brothers or sisters, if anyone who's seeing this, even people she doesn't know, people across the country say, hey, listen, I saw this girl do this. I feel as if I'm being disrespected on by my high school administrators, my school administrators. I'm going to take the same aspect um, because I saw somebody else get away with it. And I think that this is the problem. I mean, we're going to continue to delve into this, but this is the problem with accountability. This is the problem, as you mentioned, with our particular culture. I know there are other people going to watch, but we got to talk about what's going on in our culture. We don't have this ability to hold each other accountable. And I can tell you, when I acted up in school, and I acted up in school. I'm not. Nobody's going to sit up here and say that I was perfect, and I had my challenges. I got suspended. I did things I shouldn't have done, and all that kind of stuff. But my mother made sure that she held me accountable. And not only did I have to take the punishment, but I had to go to school. Then when my mother had to come into school, and she made sure that I was correct or took corrective action. That means I had to shake hands with the principal, shake hands with the teacher, apologize to them, tell them I'm sorry. And my grandmother, my mother, and my aunt, the three women, matriarchs of my life, although my aunt died when I was fairly young, they all told me that the teachers have their education. You need to go there and get yours. Now, just think about. I had to think about this too. I grew up in. I'm 49 years old, so I was born in 1973. I'm going to school in the 1980s, 1970s, right? I'm 5, 6 years old, right? They're telling me this type of stuff. Is it true? We talk about, these microaggressions against black kids and all this kind of stuff. But my parents, grandparents, didn't want to hear that stuff. I was educated by majority white females, right, through my years in school. I had a few black teachers, I had a black principal and all that, but majority of the time was white individuals who were so they didn't want to hear that the teacher didn't like you, the teacher was a racist. They didn't want to hear any of that. They want to know what you're doing. And if I'm wrong, then that's the state where I need to come off at. So the teacher is there to educate you. They wanted the education to educate. And I took the same philosophy when my kids are in school. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that my daughter, my son come to me telling me that the teachers didn't like. I don't want to hear that. I'm not listening to that. I want to know what you did. You got into a fight. Why did you get into a fight? You got this wrong. You didn't do your homework. Whatever it was, I want to know what you did. Don't tell me about the teachers didn't like you. These people didn't go to school, graduate from middle school, high school, go to college, and all that to punish you. I don't want to hear that. So I think that that's the type of accountability we need to bring back into the African American community. And until we get there, we're going to continue to have people who think it's okay to Now, remember who she's disrespecting now. She's walking across the stage disrespecting other elders within our community that we all say that we want, right? We need more black teachers. We need more black principals. We need more. Oh, you got them, and this is how you want to treat them because they made your life a living hell. How exactly did they do that? Were they pushing you into the lockers? Were they making sure you didn't eat? What were they? What exactly were they doing? Now, I'm not expecting her to explain all this. She wanted to make a point of being funny towards these individuals, and she only embarrassed herself and disrespected her family. And that is the problem that I think that we need to really, really get into our minds. So that's. Let me know your thoughts about where I'm coming from with that.
Okay, well, I will definitely say this. There does have to be, if nobody will respect us, we should respect us. So I will definitely give you that. I will say, however, I think, and this is something that speaks, I think, to the generational divide, period. I do think there is how can I put it? You said you were born in the 70s, correct? Okay, so I'm a 90s baby. That's roughly a 20-year difference.
Correct.
With that being the case, I do think, because, according to stats, a generation is about, every 40 years is considered a new generation. So we are considered in just different generations for the fact of we're about 20 years apart, different times, et cetera, et cetera. I think that a big difference with the generation, especially when you deal with millennials versus the generation before them, and especially if you're going to like Generation Z, which is the ones even younger than us. So it's the fact of I feel like people that grew up more in your time and my mother's time, it was taught in our community that we should not address our feelings because our feelings were not going to help us any. And I understand that to a certain degree, but then the other part of me is like, well, then if you don't deal with your feelings, then that's how later on you got people getting with these people that they should not be with and going into these bad relationships, having children in these unhealthy homes, unhealthy settings, because they did not deal with their emotions. Now I'll say this, we should not make our emotions a crutch, which is something that I think our generation sometimes gets wrong because it's so much about the mental health and the good vibes and the keeping your frequencies XYZ that we I feel like we have to a certain degree lost our backbone a bit. Nobody really has tough skin anymore. Everybody's easily offended, taking everything super personal. So I will give you that, but I do think there's a fine line between having tough skin and being taught to smother your feelings and not address them at all. And that's something I encountered. Like if I went and said, let's say for instance, the church I grew up at, there were some people, older people, that I honestly do not think they liked me. But if I were to say something about that, I was basically told to be quiet. You know why? Because in a lot of people's minds, my feelings about the matter did not matter. My feelings were not deemed valid. And I think that's a generational divide, unfortunately. That's kind of hard. It's hard to feel it just because you all were brought up in a different time than we were. Are able to express our feelings more freely in a way that was not accessible to the generation before us. They didn't have social media. They didn't have, put out your own podcast, your own videos. This generation in the 70s, that's just coming out of Jim Crow, where a lot of states were still having Jim Crow laws and things of that nature. So you couldn't speak your mind as freely as you can now and think there would be no negative consequences, if I can put it that way.
Well, I agree with you, and I think I agree 100% with what you're saying. I think that the Generation X that we're talking about, which I would be a member of, I've said this before I started jumping on YouTube and all that. I said this when I was still working in the police department, that we are failing our young people, and my kids were probably 10ish, 12ish, something around that age. So therefore, I stepped into the coaching role. I started taking on roles like that because I saw what was going on, right? And listen, I don't want to invalidate anyone's feelings or anything like that, but I think that that's a problem. The world doesn't care about your feelings, right? They don't care. I mean, everybody's feelings are hurt because gas prices are going up. You think that they're going to lower the gas prices? Nobody cares. So this is a problem that we want to express ourselves, and we want to make TikTok videos and do all this stuff and get stuff off of our chest. And I get that. And listen, there is a mental health component, right? I think that after Columbine, that really was a game changer. With people were, they were really considering, okay, what are these kids going through? What is the effects of bullying? What are the effects of not listening to our children? So there is some credence to what you're saying now. I'm not going to completely dismiss that. But the other side of this is that we can start to do things to a certain level where it becomes a slippery slope where we just descend straight into hell. Right? We can't stop ourselves on this path that we're going down. And I think that's where we had to get to. And so I think that a lot of people within Generation X did not we heard the harsh lessons, right? I could have internalized the things my grandmother told me. Listen, I don't want to hear that. And she was rough about it. I don't want to hear that. You got to get your education. And I could have said to my kids, listen, I'm going to need you to be soft, and I want to hear what you have to say. And, oh, the teacher doesn't like you. Let me run down to the school and fight the teacher and argue. And let's get you some special classes. And, make sure we got, orange slices and rainbows. And let's celebrate some time for some drawing lessons. And let's have some cuddly time and mandatory hugs. We could have done that, right? We could have done that. I could have done that, but no. But the hard world that we live in that's not the way that it is. And so we have to balance the hardcore with the soft and try to find some middle ground. And I don't think that expressing yourself on a video like that is an acceptable way to represent yourself, to represent your family, or to create an image that you want your children, your kids, your grandkids to look at and say, that's my mama. That was my mama back in the days. That's my auntie. That's my cousin. that's my big sister, etc. So we've got to think about what we're doing. We have to present an image, because if this is a cultural problem that we're talking about here, and I don't think that this was the way to go about this.
You know what? I actually can agree with you on that. And if there's nothing to say about that topic, I think talking about image is a perfect way to segue into this next one right here. Um, was there anything else you want to say about this first one before we go into this next one? Because
No, I think it'll
I
segue
have
in.
a
I,
feeling this
I
next
want to get
one
into
is ooh,
accountability. I want to get into accountability and stuff. So
yeah.
but we can. I mean, children, you can talk about the next video. We'll get into it. So.
Yeah, so the next one definitely deals with accountability, so we can get into all of that. Okay, so a lot of you on the live probably have seen or heard by now about the viral video that dropped this week online of Kim Burrell speaking at a church service before she began to sing. I cannot pull up the full video right now. That's why we have the clips playing in my background. The video with Kim Burrell looks something like this, her talking with glasses. And a lot of people were offended by her comments. Just to go over a few of the comments. First, she states, give a quick review. She mentions getting value with your friends. Then she goes into asking them how long have they been broke. Lord have mercy. How long have they been broke? How many times have they changed their name on their light bill? Is the bills in the little cousin's name? Do they live in a trailer park or a house? Then she goes into comments about being there with no mask and no vaccine. Then she ends with comments discussing people being honesty and how the leader of the house has a strong honesty. And I saw a clip of him talking for She Came Up. He's interesting too. But the leader of the house having honesty and, you know, people not being able to set hard truths like you're ugly. And after she says that, then shortly after, she goes into singing. Of course, this video made its rounds. Kim Burrell has been in the media before for comments she's made that have not landed well. The clip of her arguing with a contestant on Sunday Best. Some comments she made about LGBTQIA a few years ago that made the headlines online. So I'm gonna let my brother go first on this one because I'm a Pew baby, so y'all know I got comments on this one, so I'm gonna let him go first.
Well, listen, I'm a Pew baby too now. I mean, I grew up in the Grand Old Church of God in Christ, the Church of God in Christ.
Oh, Kojic. So he
I was
okay.
Kojic. Listen, I was Kojic to the bone.
Okay.
You can't be born. You can't join it. You got to be born into it. So I was there. So, and listen, I don't think that. Well, I was going to say, 90% of what she said was not offensive to me. It just wasn't. I mean, I've heard some offensive things. Now, I don't know who this lady is. I guess she's some evangelist, or I don't know who she is. I never heard of her. I'm not into.
Yeah.
Okay, gospel singer. I'm not into that realm anymore. I grew up there, and I'm not there anymore. So I don't know who she is. But I've heard some really, really rough things. And this is again what we're talking about, where people just can't take this. Listen, if we had cell phone cameras back in the days, you would leave church crying. I mean, because of the stuff that happened. Now, and this is the sensitivity that I'm talking about. Now, was it okay to be running around hurting people's feelings and saying that they're ugly? No, that completely was not acceptable. But the other things about choosing, I heard her message to be, you got to learn how to choose your friends. And you have to make decisions about the friends that you're going to choose. What place are you in your life that you are continuing to need to put your light bill and your water bill in somebody else's name? What kind of decisions are you making? That's what I heard her to be saying. And so, listen, and that's a harsh truth and reality for people. We have to make better decisions. Now, what I think that the church has messed up is that we haven't done enough work in telling people how to make better decisions, how to make better financial decisions, right? How many, in all your time of being a church baby, all my time of being a church baby, did they ever have any financial literacy classes? Did they ever have any professional accountants come in and say, this is how you manage your bank book and checkbook and stuff. No, they didn't have any of that stuff. So a lot of these problems that we're dealing with in the African American community, our place of refuge, our place of social exchanges and and bonding that we should have gotten was from church. And all we got was, you're going to go to hell if you don't do these things. You got to wear a dress when you're doing this, and don't wear makeup and do this, right? That's right. And don't go to this dance over here. Don't talk to that girl over there because she's not in the world. And don't talk to that church over there because
illegally yoked.
Yeah, all this kind of stuff, right? So people have left that. And now we got more people going into the corporate world unprepared to deal in the corporate world, and we have to get the knowledge and everything like that we got from other sources rather than our own cultural heritage. So that's what I think the problem is. So I actually don't have a problem with the vast majority of what she had to say. I really don't. I don't think she should have said, calling people ugly and stuff. People can't take the fact that you call them, and the fact that the video went viral and she had to do an apology is proving her point. Is that people can't take the truth about themselves. It's a problem. It's a problem. And we've been so used to being coddled and hugs, and we got to stroke your back, and we're afraid to get canceled. And our Twitter page is getting Facebook jail, and Twitter page is gonna be. It's created a group of individuals who are self-consumed with being liked and being accepted by other people. And we got to be able to take that truth about ourselves. We got to be able to take it, right? We live in this filter generation where we don't like the way we look. We put some filters up and we put makeup on, and we got all this other stuff that we try to hide who we are. And we got to confront those things about ourselves.
Okay, so I will say this: I do think our current generation needs to develop a bit of tougher skin, and I will say that if we're looking at the message of knowing who your friends are, I actually can get with that. I can get with the message. I myself, I have a good job now. I'm making more money. When I first started hanging out with my two people that I would consider my friends, they had more money than me. They, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Me hanging out with them, it helped me see that I could do better for myself, and it helped me be able to move forward and get my stuff straight, and I'm continuing to move in that direction. Now, with that said, sometimes the message can be lost with the messenger. Unfortunately, Miss Kim Burrell, she seemed to have a history of a reckless mouth, because she's been you hear more about her for her commentary and the spirit behind the commentary than you actually seem to hear about her music. And there are other videos of Kim Burrell saying crazy stuff over the years. I'm not sure if children will see this live, so I'm gonna, make this as G-rated as I can. There was a video up of her commenting about how women smell in various areas of their bodies and stuff of that nature. She say whatever come to her mind. It seemed like when she get behind that mic, and it's
Is
like,
that wrong? Is that wrong? No, it's necessary.
It's necessary.
It's necessary because it's necessary because I'm not talking about. Well, yeah, it's necessary. Here's why it's necessary: because the church hasn't addressed this to any particular level that has been effective, right? In your time of being in a pew baby, did they have hygiene classes? Did they have these type of things? If they did, how long did they last? Right? So if you're shaking your head no, then when is the time to do it? We got to talk about this stuff.
But there's the spirit behind it. Doing it in a loving spirit is different than doing it where it comes across
again, that's the
about
sensitivity
thing.
That's the sensitivity thing that we got to be able to get.
Behind it.
The spirit behind it is we got to do better. We got to do better.
It should be because you want to help, not because you want to throw shade. Those are two different things.
Okay, well,
I didn't. Or do you want to go viral?
I didn't see and or hear any of that stuff. But I will say that the church typically has been extreme, particularly the Pentecostal churches, apostolic churches, have been extremely negligent in helping the individuals become a better overall person. We make good Christians, but we made them terrible at doing things overall. I saw this in my time in law enforcement, where I went to certain individuals' homes where there were Bibles all over the places, religious artifacts on the wall, and people were suffering from mental illness, not taking their medication. And I knew what church they went to, and I'm like, listen, this can't be. We have to do a better job of this. So okay, maybe I don't know. I'll take your word for it um, the tone and the tenor of what she was saying. But I got to be convinced that we've got to do a better job with addressing these types of things that are uncomfortable. I don't think that she woke up this morning or woke up that morning, whatever morning it was, say, you know what? I'm going to go in here and talk about how women are smelling. That wasn't her. That wasn't her intention. People are hugging her, want to talk to her, want to be in her space, in her place, and they're not taking care of themselves. People want to be her friends, and people want to be friends with your sons and cousins and stuff, and they're not having the drive and the initiative to go forward. And that's why we need to talk about it. As I mentioned, I want to talk to more young men and say this is how you correct something within your life. I'm not saying these things because I want to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm not saying anything because I want to make anybody feel bad about themselves. But I know what a lot of these things are like. I was there. And so I want to help young men to get to this place where they're not embarrassed, where they can have full-fledged functioning lives and become the best version of themselves. So maybe her tone was raw off. They said the same thing about Kevin Samuels, that his tone was off. But is the message wrong? Is the message wrong?
I'll say this. I'm a person, if my intention was pure and it comes across wrong, I'll apologize for how it came across and how I presented it offending you. I'll stick to what I said. I apologize about how I said it offending you. Reading Kim Burrell's apology, the apology came across less like an apology and more like a don't come for me unless I send for you. Because I read the apology.
I
The
did too.
apology, it felt the don't, and I'm like, okay, so now I don't know her thoughts, but it like, I literally gave me, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, but don't come for me unless I send for you. That was literally the apology. The apology was less an apology and more of a nuck if you buck.
Okay. No, I definitely agree that the apology was problematic, right? If you're going to apologize, then the first thing you have to do is take ownership of what you did wrong, and then make corrective actions. And she didn't take any type of corrective action, right?
Nah, it was none of that in the apology. It was like,
if she has a history of this, then she needs to analyze herself and say, okay, these things these issues that I'm trying to address, I'm trying to do these things in a better manner, or I need to do these things in a better manner. And I assume that she come from the old school like you did, or like I did, where these things are mild, right? So
I've heard worse. That's why when I saw it, I'm like,
listen, I've heard worse all day.
I don't agree with it, but I've heard worse.
I've heard worse. I'm not even sure why they went viral. I can't even believe they went viral. But okay.
People already didn't like her because some of her other comments. So this was like adding fuel to a fire. If it was somebody else that was less well known and did not already have a history of speaking and it offending people, it would not have went viral. I will say that. I mean, that's my journalism degree speaking. The fact of who it was and the history she already had with comments she made it easy for that to go viral and be trending on Twitter in the top 30 the way it was. Actually, her name is still trending in the United States according to Twitter from what I saw earlier today. It's been trending for like 3-4 days. Her name and the video and the commentary. Go ahead. No, one thing you said is about accountability, and this is my thing, and this is a reason why this video itself hit me a different way. Once again, there is a lack of accountability in the church, but it's not just with the people that need to be helped, but it's with the so-called helpers. I've been in church my whole life. I go to a church now. The leaders are Pentecostal based, but it's more of a non-denominational feel, if what I say makes sense. So it's not as traditional as the church that I grew up in. The church I grew up in, there was many a times where people did some sideways stuff and nobody checked them about their mouth or their actions because of their position. They said amen. They said hallelujah. You may have heard them discuss the person at the Sunday dinner or the cookout later on, or be like, oh, sister so-and-so running her mouth again in the fellowship hall. But nobody
checked these people. They went unchecked and their mouths were reckless in the name of the Lord.
Yeah. Well, that I'm not going to excuse that type of behavior. I don't want to make it seem like I'm saying that everything that happened within the church was correct, or the way that they approach everyone correct. I'm sure that people didn't like people. They did abuse their authority. You're right. Power left unchecked, is a corrupting device. So yeah, so we definitely need some training, need some sensitivity classes about how we approach people, how we address people. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I've been very, very disappointed with the church, which is one of the reasons why I stopped going, because there was not a lot of things that we should do or should have known, and if that was the place where we should have known these things, right? Should have been a place where we set this accountability standard. Here's the standard, and here's how we're going to get here, and that goes for the helpers, goes for the leadership. Here's the standards. Here's how we're going to talk to people. Here's how we're going to address people. Here's the classes we're going to have: financial literacy, hygiene, how to buy a house, how to buy a car. All these different things that we got to go out into the world and figure out. How to balance a checkbook. We got to go out into the world and figure out. Right? They're not teaching in the high schools. They're not teaching, although they're teaching sex ed and other hygiene classes in schools now, but they weren't teaching it then, right? So our cultural places, the places we should have got cultural standards, we didn't get, and so
No, we didn't.
We have an old school woman who comes from, I don't know where she comes from, but she's trying to bring that to today's environment, and it's just not going over well, and so therefore.
Yeah.
But I'm going to stand by what I said. I've heard worse, and I can't believe that's about it. So
no, I have heard worse. It's just the thing that, because as a believer, especially in today's society, and this is my personal experience, you constantly are defending. It's almost like when you used to be a police officer, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
So I've heard police officers say a lot of times you hear all cops are not like that when something happens between an officer and a civilian, where it seems like things went left, somebody went overboard, et cetera, and the officer feels like he has to answer, like all the good officers, like they have to answer for the ones that maybe did things incorrectly. It happens the same way with church people. Because when you go on Twitter, first thing you said was, this is why I don't go to church. And this is what I don't like about church folk. And this is this. And this is that. And part of me understands where they're coming from, because I'm going to be honest, there was a time where I considered no longer dealing with church because the environment I was in was toxic. And I had to come to a decision to remove myself from that particular house and find a house that actually worked for me in the season God had me in, rather than discontinue myself from church, period. I had to make a cognitive decision to, okay, you need to find a house that's going to help you grow and not smother your growth. This house is no longer working. Where your roots come from is not always where you can really go to grow. Sometimes you got to take yourself somewhere else from where you were originally planted. It happens. But it's a constant fight. And it's like when you're given such a big that's like, for instance, me, I have a platform with my podcast. I'm not going to say and do everything in public because I know that all it takes is a video to get captured. And the next thing you know, because people know, oh, she has a Christian podcast and she this, that, it's going to go up. Next thing you know, it's a bunch of drama. You have to use a sense of awareness. Like there are celebrities that are separate. They do not make their money and their living from the Christian arena. And even they are careful with what they say and do in public because they understand the backlash it could get if it gets in the wrong hands and it makes the internet. So if people that do not make their money from the Christian arena can realize that, I don't understand why somebody where that literally is supposed to be their roots and how they make their living would not think that would not be something to consider. I don't understand it at all.
That is a good question. I was going to say that some people are still trying to adjust to this viral environment it's still something new, right? And we tend to act and to react, and so we have to really get into a place where we all slow down. Actors, politicians, church folk, podcasts. You got to slow down because, like you said, you could say something And 10 years later, somebody's going to pull it up and say, and try to hold that
Soundbite.
against you. So we really had to really try to think about, long and hard about what we're saying and all that. So, and to older people who are used to speaking this way, I mean, maybe that's what she's suffering from, and it really needs to. And it's hard because this is where you came up. This is what you know. This is how you think that things should be. It worked for you. It worked for everybody in your church. This is corrective, loving action. And I just, I don't know. I just don't see of course, this is me speaking. I don't see the issue with it. But.
No, definitely always can agree to disagree. I mean, we may agree on the last topic. We may not, because I'm female, you male. So this last one, we may agree. We may agree to disagree. But I guess we can leave that one as is. Let's say, was anything else you wanted to say regarding that?
I don't think so. We can probably just move on.
Yeah, I just say the spirit behind it is always how I feel about things. I feel like the spirit behind it will show itself, in how it comes across. Getting to this last one, Mr. Hunter actually may be surprised about my opinion on this last one. I'm not sure what he thinks I'm gonna say, but there was actually a TD Jakes video that's been going a bit viral as well on this week, where he is discussing the relationship of men and women, specifically Black men and women, because TD Jakes is an African American man. And the main part of the video, to summarize it in a quick soundbite that seems to be going viral, is there's a part at the end where he says, "Don't come home and brag to me about the fact that you don't need me and wonder why I shy away." A lot of women I saw on Twitter and TikTok and stuff felt like TD Jakes was actually telling women to basically lower themselves and smother themselves to appease a man's ego. That seems to have been the big argument about what he meant.
Oh, wait a minute. That was going around the internet? I'm sorry, that was going around the internet? Okay.
Yes, there was it's been Twitter and TikTok are the main places I saw with, the men were saying that they thought that's what he meant, and also women. And then there were a few people in there that were saying that ain't what he was saying. But the majority felt like he was talking out of turn.
Oh, can you send me that? Because I would love to read those comments.
Oh, I got you. I definitely got you on that one. So my thing is this. I listened to the video for myself, and me, call it the journalist in me, I also went and looked at the first part of the video, which is another part of the message. Because I like to see the front end and the back end, because I like to know the context of what he's talking about. That's just me. I actually do not disagree with what he said, per se. For the simple fact of this. So what I gathered from what he said, it was not the fact that he wanted women to smother themselves, but it's the fact of not to emasculate men by not allowing them to step into their manly role in the house. And he got on the men at one point in the message as well, saying, men don't allow women to, pour into you so much that you're not pouring back into them, having to ask your wife for lunch money and et cetera, et cetera. He got on the men too. It was not just him getting on the women. Of course, him getting on the women is the part that went viral, which goes back to what Captain Hunter said about this whole viral culture and, certain parts going viral and other parts kind of get left by the wayside. But I actually don't disagree exactly with what he was saying. I grew up in a single parent house. My parents divorced when I was 10. And my mother had to take care of me. And I saw my mother have to do everything. And it played a part in me developing tougher skin. But also, I decided at a very young age, I wanted to be in a relationship where I could come home and take off my businesswoman hat, take off my podcaster hat, take off all of that, and I could let my husband take the lead. Which is why I have no problem submitting for the fact that I want somebody else to be able to take the lead. But every woman does not feel that way. So I'm going to share the thread to Captain Hunter as he requested, and I'm going to let him give his comments real quick while I share this to him and send this to him.
Okay, yeah. So I can appreciate what you said, and I actually agree with what you said. We don't disagree about that at all. I have not read the different comments that saying that he was telling women to kind of lower their standards or whatever they were saying. And there seems, well, I want to kind of bring this back to this accountability thing. And I'm getting an idea that in this modern day market of people who are dating it within their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, etc., that there's a lack of accountability, a refusal to accept accountability, particularly by a certain group of individuals, namely Black women. So, and I think that I don't want to give anyone a bad rap or anything like that, but I'm hearing this now. I don't know whether it's true or not, but there's this place called the Manosphere where men are talking in these particular spaces on the internet, saying these types of things that they can't hold women accountable. And one of the great, and not great, one of the leaders, as I mentioned, his name was Kevin Samuels. He ended up passing away.
I remember
And
that.
he talked about exactly this type of thing.
Yes,
And it seems to be very, very problematic because for 3 years, now you said that Bishop Jakes, who people have always loved, he says this, and now it goes viral. Oh, yeah, we don't want to hear that. So you can't just preach what you want to hear all the time. And I actually applaud him for saying these types of things. And if anybody's watching the video, it seemed that they're playing. It seemed like it was a Father's Day message because in the background it said Father's Day. This was a Father's Day message. So you can't come home acting like demonstrating this type of behavior because it is problematic. We want families to be together. It is not what was creating cohesive, lasting family units, and we have to accept that. We have to be able to accept that. So they want to cancel him for saying those types of things. For 3 years, Kevin Samuels talked to the men in the same way that you just said. That men need to step up, stop asking your wife for money, go get a second job, drive an Uber, do what you got to do in order to make some money, get some therapy, get some healing, get over your mama issues, get over your last girlfriend issues, get over that kind of stuff before you try to enter into a relationship with yourself. Work out, eat right, exercise, all that kind of stuff. Get yourself together, right? So this was what he said for 3 years. The moment he makes a video talking to a woman about, stop overlooking the average guy because you are not a 10, go get the average guy, build a nice family. That's when it went viral.
He got famous.
That's when he got famous. So it seems to be that they're attacking people who try to tell women how and what men really want. Not all men. This is not 100%. This is not 100%. But if we would ask a typical average woman, what does she want in a man? She'd probably describe all these different attributes: how tall he has to be, how much money he has to make, what he's got to look like, all these different types of things that they're going to want. But Kevin Samuels did something really, really unique. And he asked the question, that man that you just described, what does he want? Are you what he wants? And that man who you want probably has options. Other women want him. He has options. And so why should he pick you of all the people that are out there? So I think that this is kind of what Bishop Jakes is saying. Listen, you want to brag about how much money you make, how competitive you are, how much you're a CEO, your degrees. I'm a master's degree. I'm a PhD. I got this going. I got that going. I got my own bag. I don't need you to buy me a house. All this stuff. So what is it that you want a man to do? What is it that you want a man to do? What can he give to your life? And listen, the general thing that men want or men want to be is a protector and provider. Women generally say they want somebody who's a protector, provider, who's going to be emotionally available, whatever it is you want, right? So if you want a protector and provider, he's got to be able to protect something. And you're telling him you don't need any protection. He's got to be able to provide something. Well, if you can make your own, if you got your own bag, you don't need him to help you buy a house, a car, put you in something. Then what is he supposed to do? He feels as if he has no place within your life. And so I think that women are kicking back against this idea that and they're saying they from what I'm hearing in this manosphere and from women themselves, right? This is not just men talking. This is women saying it, that men are suffering from, we are entering into a new place as women. The problem with that is that you are entering into a new place. But men don't want that place. And you can't make us want it. You can't shame us into wanting it. You can't convince us into wanting it. You can't try to talk us into it. We don't want that. I don't want to come home. Just like you, when you said you want to come home from work and be a nice, submissive wife who just relaxes and you're feminine and let your husband take over. I don't want to come home, or your man doesn't want to come home. Other men don't want to come home and argue with their women and have the same competitive nature that you bring to the boardroom in your life about what we're going to eat for dinner, where we're going to go, and what movie we're going to watch. I don't want to do any of that. So if that's the type of energy that you're bringing, and you can't and they seem to be very struggling with the idea that men don't want that, and you can't shame us, you can't guilt us. They're just not going to do it. They're just going to opt out of it. And so this is the point place. So this idea, where accountability comes into this is we have to hold the light, the mindset, and a lot of women. More women are coming out with this. And in particular, there's a woman, Kendra G. She has a show on Instagram where she's been checking women about this type of thing. There was a woman, I played her clips, of Rebecca Lynn Pope, who's trying to tell people about she's a matchmaker who gave up matchmaking because she said that I can't deal with women because their expectations are too high. Right. So a lot of women matchmakers are trying to get women to understand that the men that you want and the image that you try to frame life that you think would be the way that you want to live life is not what men want. So that's the accountability thing that women really have to get an understanding of, is that a lot of men don't want those types of things.
Okay, so I will give you that. There does need to be accountability with us as women. I will say I think there also needs to be an accountability with the men on that side too, and I'll explain why. I just got out of a 1-year relationship. It did not work. We tried our best to make it work. It did not work. It was my first serious relationship because I don't deal with just anybody. That's just how I am. I'm particular for the fact that I don't want you to waste my time. That's really just how it is. Now, with that being stated, and I have no ill will against them, but one of the biggest things that did cause our split was the fact of when we first started dating, we were kind of around the same place. We were still both kind of getting things together and stuff. God started allowing things to happen in my life where I was able to start moving forward at a bit of a rapid pace. That did not happen for my partner. And hello? Can you still hear me?
I'm hearing you. There's a circle going on. I don't know if it's my connection or yours or what.
Well, mine froze. Okay, so let's see
You're
what
frozen.
Okay, it's doing the flickering thing. All right, okay, there we go. We're back. Okay, so I'm sorry about that, y'all. So yes, I was saying the fact of we broke up, and a big part of it was things started. Can you still hear me before I keep going, first of all?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, so things started moving rapidly in a pace for me where it did not do that for him. And the thing that created the split was the fact of the confidence and stuff he had at the beginning of our relationship, with him falling on hard times and things getting better for me, it was not there any longer. I had to start taking the lead on things. Let's go here and do this so we can get out the house and not just be in the house watching movies all day. Let's go here and do that. Oh, okay, I want to go check out this concert. I think it'll be fun. Oh, you don't have the money? Okay, I'll pay for it. I had no choice but to step into that place. And it was the fact of I had to come to a hard realization with myself that this ain't what I want. I don't like having to put on the man pants in a relationship. As much as I am somebody that's learned to survive on her own, as much as I do want to have my own money and finances, even if the man is not making the same amount I am, I would like him to still be able to hold his own. And unfortunately, in the Black community, especially if you start dealing with, now I'm not going to sit here and say the whole family unit in the Black community is broken, because there's some statistics that state that there's more two-parent households than we realize. But I will still say it is the fact of, with the same thing about accountability and people wanting to be babied, I think that has affected how our men in our community think.
Yeah.
It's like a bunch of man boys walking around, but then you want somebody to treat you like you Big Papa, and you still thinking and acting like a man child. And that is, in my opinion, that is also unrealistic. You want me to treat you like the big man, but you don't seem like you. And it's one thing if a man falls on hard times and you know he's actively putting forth effort to get out of it. That happens to the best of us. But when it seems like that effort is here today, going tomorrow, here today, going tomorrow, and you're having to constantly, like, and after a while you get tired of that. It's like my arms is tired. I'm tired of this. And unfortunately, as women, sometimes we should exit stage left. You know, if y'all not married, you can exit stage left once you realize it's not working for you, rather than stay around and get bitter. Which is what I felt myself leaning towards, which is why I had to make a hard decision. But it's the fact of it's accountability on both sides. For the fact of you don't want to emasculate your man, but also I'm not going to sit here and act like you big pimping, so to speak, and you not.
So there's a couple things I want to address there. So
Of course.
The idea that is something that's worth a broader conversation. Probably don't have time to do it now. But when men aren't the protectors, providers for various reasons, right? They get laid off, they get disabled, and they can't work the same thing. They will go. They not will, but they may go through a depression and things along those lines, right? I was a provider before. I was making this amount of money. Now I can't do it. Now my wife is taking me, or my wife or my girl is taking me out to eat, or she wants to do this, and now she's playing, and I just want to sit in the house and watch TV. And so there is a certain level of depression that can happen to individuals, right? Because so that takes a lot of gumption, many therapy and help to get through those times.
Very true.
So,
and I tried to talk to him about that because I thought about that as well. You know.
Yeah. So and he may need an extra push. How long can you push to get back? And by push, I mean gentle encouragement. Hey, listen, here's some job opportunity. There's a way to say it, a softer way to say it. So that's worth a different conversation. I think that's part of the overall broader context of African American culture when we were the last ones hired, first ones fired type of thing in the 60s and 70s when they started deindustrializing the United States, sending jobs overseas. Who were the first ones to be fired? It was us. Therefore, we end up being depressed, leaving the home, getting addicted to drugs, selling drugs, going to jail, mass incarceration, and all that kind of stuff. So there's a whole thing, which is why we're in this place now where women feel as if they can't trust us in particular to a certain level, so that why they got to get these masters and PhDs and move up because they don't think that they can trust the black man. That this is a real thing. This is a real thing. This is actually my area of expertise. So, but it's also very important to understand that this is not something that's the lack of men stepping up, being assertive protectors, providers is a greater symptom of the thing we talked about at the first. It's a greater symptom of things that are going on within society that is not relegated to simply the black community. There was an article that was written, I think I want to say like 2008. It was in Psychology Today by a psychologist who made up a term. I don't know if it was him or somebody else made up a term called moodles, combination of man and poodles, because we're not growing up. Right, we're not growing up. We're living at home and 35 years old. We're sitting home playing PlayStation all day, and this is across all culture, all American culture, white, black, Hispanic, whatever. Right. So not failure. There was a movie about a failure to launch, all this type of stuff. Right. Just living at home. Right. Yeah. Baby boy. Failure to launch. All these types of movies are just exemplifying this type of thing. We don't know what to do with our life. We don't have any direction. Our women are taking over. They have direction. They want to move out and all this kind of stuff. So that's a problem. And so I've mentioned on my show, and this is why I wanted to, as I mentioned to you, I want to break up these two things. This is exactly why I wanted to break up my podcast and speak specifically to the men's issues, because of the things that African American men in particular, right? I said this goes to all men, so anybody can listen to the podcast. But because this is an issue and this is a problem, men have to step up. You want to be leaders, they want to be protectors, they have to be providers. Well, you have to be worthy of receiving that protection and that provision. I think that men need to listen to women. I had a conversation just the other day I think it was actually yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
had a conversation in which when women say that they don't need a man, or they will be submissive to the right man,
Mm.
why are they saying that? So let's break that down. They're going to be submissive to the right man.
I'm
Why are
never,
you
yeah.
with? Why are you going to be with the wrong man? Why are you going to give your space and entertainment,
Mm.
time, energy, and to someone who's the wrong man?
Facts.
Why are you doing that?
Makes
So
sense.
if and
Go ahead.
so that's the first point. The second point is that men need to become the right man. We need to hear what they're saying,
Mm-hmm.
and if you want that type of submission, you want a soft, sweet, cooperative, intelligent CIA woman, confident, or whatever CIA is. No, FBI, feminine, beautiful, inspirational.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah, feminine, beautiful. I didn't make that up. That was from other people in the so-called manosphere. If you want that type of woman, and then you need to be the confident. You want an FBI woman, feminine, beautiful, inspirational. Then you need to be a CIA man, confident, intelligent, and assertive. So you need to be that type of man on your game, on your grind, got all your stuff together. And if you and men need to do that, and we're suffering from a lack of men because of lack of leadership, because of lack of positive role models, because of broken homes, because of mass incarceration. You name the social ills that we're all dealing with. We're dealing with it. But we got to
Mm-hmm.
get men to step up, and therefore that will cause the men to be in line. We can fix our communities, right? We can change some of the trajectory of what's going on in inner cities in Chicago, Detroit, New York, all these different places, right? Even Waterbury, wherever people live at, we can try to change those trajectories, and therefore the families can get in line, the communities can get in line, and all that kind of thing. But it's got to start with the men. It's got to start with the men. So I know that everybody wants to dump on Bishop Jakes for saying what he said, and there was merit to what he said. But the first person we have to look at, and the first responsibility is men collectively have to hold men accountable, have to get on our game, get on our grind, stop telling people, just stop worrying about how big a girl's butt is, and trying to sleep with everyone we come in contact with, and let's really try to get on our game, get on our grind, and make sure that we can attract the type of woman, high class woman, and then we can demand high class women.
Mm-hmm. I definitely do agree with you. And one thing I want to say, before Kevin Samuels passed away, just to segue a little bit, I actually, because I had heard of him, but I had not actually watched one of his videos. All I ever heard was, that he was super problematic and yada, yada, yada. Once again, I'm the investigative type. I want to see for myself before I take your word from it. Call it nosy, call it my journalism degree, whatever. I watched the videos. Kevin, that there were one or two videos where I did not agree with what he said, but for the most part, he actually, in my opinion, and I may lose some followers behind this. Okay, fine. He, in my opinion, he spoke facts. He just spoke them very hard nosed and to the point. He spoke facts though, and not even did he speak facts, but the fact of because like I watched a bunch of them. It was about a month before he died, and the majority of them, and this is my opinion, the women that were calling in kind of, because I work phones right now. I do sales. I make good money in sales. I deal with people calling me all the time, but you're calling me, but you're calling me on the defensive. So I have to either tell myself to not go defensive or I have to go a different route. A lot of times there was a defensive vibe that came from the women that were calling in that I think played a part in how the conversation played out. Because there were a few videos where the woman simply called in because she really wanted help. And why have I not yet been able to find a mate that I could marry? And because them coming in a spirit of humility, I know some women gonna hate me for saying this, them coming in a spirit of humility rather than the conversation turning into a showdown, which is what Kevin seemed to be viral for. It was more of Kevin, honestly, it was almost like talking to your uncle was the vibe I got from a couple of the videos. But the women called and they called willing to listen. I just got to put it the way I see it. They called willing to listen. And it's just the fact of, I think women need to listen to men more about what they really want, and men need to listen to women more about what they really want. We both, especially in our Black community, we need to hear each other out from a place of not so combative, but simply just speaking our mind on what we feel about the matter. Now, depending on what's said, it may be a moment where it could get a little high rise. I've seen some panel discussion, about men and women, and there's some topics when you get to topics about the woman working out of home, or topics about the exclusivity and stuff. There's certain topics that's going to get a little hot, possibly, because, people have experiences. But it's just the fact of being able to have a place where we can be honest with one another. Just a place of honesty. And also the fact of, because you have it, you don't have to brag on it. I tried my best in my last relationship, even though I saw the fact that I was moving forward a bit quicker than him. I did my best to try not to make him feel less than because of that. Because I understood the fact that it had to be tough to go from being able to take care of stuff to all of a sudden you can't. I'm not a man, but I can imagine that would hit anybody in the gut, especially men, where, as you said, being provider is a man not being able to provide. And I'm going to say this to my ladies watching. It's almost like, imagine if you as a woman were a size 10 and then you had children and all of a sudden you gain a bunch of weight and you're having a hard time keeping it off. And I'm using that analogy. I know a lot of women can possibly relate to what I'm saying when I say that. It hits you for the fact of you feel like you're not who you used to be, and et cetera, and comparing yourself to what you were. The man could be telling you look fine, but it's hard for you to understand that. I feel like that's kind of how men are when they have those moments. It's the fact of the woman's telling them, it's okay, I still love you, I'll be here to support you, you'll be fine. But the man is still his biggest critic at the end of the day. And women, I hope I didn't offend you by using, that analogy, but I'm like, what's something my ladies can understand to see where I'm coming from? Just the fact of, it hits you, because men in the society of us in the United States, from what I've seen and what I've studied, even when you go to like marketing and stuff, classes that I've done with journalism, for men, money and status reign supreme. For women, it's their looks. That tends to be how that rocks out here in the U.S. regarding what is focused most upon when it comes to the main genders. Men is money and status. Women is looks. When you look at a commercial and they want a man to buy something, they normally show him wearing the item and him surrounded by a bunch of women that want to be around him and want to talk to him because he has on the watch or has on the sneakers or has on the suit. Women, if you want a woman to buy an item, normally you show that item giving her a full makeover. She go in one way, she wash with the body soap, she come out flawless. It's a way to get them to purchase it because you're speaking to what they make the priority. So it's the fact that we have to listen to each other. And until we do that, we're going to keep having problems. And women, one thing I would say to us, you can't expect a man to reach standards that you don't set. I will say that. I had to check myself on that. It was the fact of, okay, you're trying to be supportive, but don't coddle at the same time. You can't expect somebody to meet standards you don't set. If you ain't never asked him to open the door, can you be mad if he don't do it? If you ain't never made him pay it, can you be mad that he can't pay the bill?
Well, let me ask you this. Right, so this is going on. Men, nobody knows who to pay anymore. Men don't want to be taken advantage of. There was an article in the New York Times talking about 1/3 of women accept dates just for free food. Men read that type of thing.
Ooh.
Yeah. So nobody knows who to pay, right? And so if you're on a dating app or you're just meeting people and you don't, it can get expensive, right? So how would you feel if you're the type of woman that we're talking about today? We're not talking about if you want to be Miss Independent. Not that I'm saying anything wrong with that.
Okay.
Not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with that. But if you're looking for a certain type of man, would you be offended? Would you? Let me ask you. No. Would you have patience with a man who didn't know to open up the door? Right. We're talking about they don't know. Right. We're talking about these moodles. They don't know. They don't know how to do things. Right. So they don't know to open a door. I think there's a confusion about that. Would you have patience with that? With that type of man?
I don't mind having patience with a man when I see progress. The problem with my last relationship is there seemed like there was no progress happening. And that's why I had to hang things up. I have no problem being patient with the man when I actually see progress. When it seems like I'm given all these chances and nothing really changes, now that's where we got an issue. That's when I got to look at myself and see if I'm lying to myself, wanting somebody to be something they're not.
So I can appreciate that. So I think there's a general confusion as to what men and women want, right?
I agree.
And so I've talked to women, and so they're saying that they don't want any, not all. I mean, this is this is what I'm talking about, the confusion.
Mm-hmm.
So they're saying they don't know that women are saying that they don't want a man to do these certain things. I can hope, and I've had women. I've been walking. You walk into a mall, you walk into a store. I hold the door open for somebody behind me. I can open them up. I can hold my own door. Women have said, more than one woman has said this to me. I'm like, okay, well, wait a minute. I would hold the door for you as a dude. I'm just trying to be a nice person, but okay. I've heard stories about women who said, listen, if you're out there, where we live at is obviously it snows during the wintertime. When it's not global warming going on, it snows during the wintertime. And so they say, well, what it would look like if I'm outside, you're outside shoveling the snow and I'm sitting in the house. No, I'm gonna take my behind out there and help you out because because we're in this together as a team. So, and the guys think, as a guy, I'm thinking, man, I need to protect, provide, and do these types of things, the manual type of labor type of thing. And so there's this blurring of the lines. So I think that there's this confusion, which is why I think that Bishop Jakes addressed this type of confusion that is going on within people's minds. You're a woman who's thinking that this is good. They think that this is good. They think I got my own degrees, I got my own house, I travel, I do this, I do that, I'm on my game, I'm on my grind. Men, a majority, not all, are not looking for that. That is not impressive. A man, he doesn't care about your job. I mean, he may ask you what you do, okay, but how much you make, what your degree is, he doesn't care about any. Okay, that's great. Can you cook? Can you clean? Can you? And I'm like,
no, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, well, this is the thing that matters.
I don't cook, I don't clean. Let me show you how I got this ring.
And women are listening to that stuff and thinking that this that's cool. That's not cool. It's not cool to a I would say a majority. There are some men, but here's the point, and here's where I think Kevin Samuels was really right. I don't want to keep bringing this to him, but he was right about this. You got to give credit to where it's due. Is the man that you want? Does he want that?
That's true.
Is that what he's interested in? You want this big time baller who's doing on his game, but does he want that? Does he want a home cooked meal? Does he want those types of things? That's what you have to ask yourself. If a woman finds a man who doesn't want that, doesn't care about all this, then rock out, go for it. I mean, that's great, but to Bishop Jake's point is that is a turn off, and women can't understand why men are turned off, why they don't want to approach them. There's been videos, YouTube stuff about how come men don't approach women anymore, how come they don't talk to me, how come they're scared to talk to me, how come they don't ask me out, how come I got to do. It's because of this type of energy that is being given off, and it's so prevalent now that Bishop Jakes had to say something over the pulpit and say, this is why the men are not approaching you. This is why, because you want to brag about what you got, how you got it, your degrees, what alpha sorority or whatever fraternity that you're a part of. He don't care.
Okay, so I do agree with you, and I will actually try to answer a question that you asked. You mentioned you trying to open the door and stuff, and women kind of bucking at you for opening the door.
More than one.
And stuff. Okay, so multiple women. So I'm a little surprised to hear that and I'll answer your question after I say this. I'm a little surprised to hear that only because I graduated with the bachelor's from Hampton U. I hope me mentioning my bachelor's ain't off putting to no men on the live. But I graduated from Hampton U. They were big on teaching young men from my university about chivalry. They literally would tell them, if you see a woman coming, you better open that door. To the point that when a guy on campus didn't open the door for me, I was surprised because every guy on campus opened the door if he saw me coming. He could be behind me. He would speed up, come around me, and catch the door before I stepped through it. So I'm a little surprised by that. But I will say this. I do think, and this is me digging back into my minor in psychology, I think that we as women, and I'll say in general, women, we are emotional creatures. With that being the case, a woman, after our emotions have been stung a couple times, there are some women that will shut their emotions off. So, okay, let's say a man does you wrong a couple times. You get to the point, I don't need no man for nothing. I don't need him for nothing. I can do this myself. I'll pay my own bills. I'll take care of this. I'll take myself out, get dressed up and look good for myself. I don't need you to open no door. I can open my own door. I got my own Chipotle. It's the fact of, and it's turned off as a protection mechanism. And I think on men, it's similar to the point that men don't want to approach us because they have been stung a couple times too. I feel like everybody's trying to protect themselves. And as a result of that, we're pushing each other away and causing more drama.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, and that's why I said the meaning to step up. And listen, I said this. I'm going to reiterate it again. The men need to step up. We need to look at the history of things that have happened. 1 out of every 3 women in the United States is sexually molested.
Yeah.
Who is doing the sexual molestations? The vast majority are men. Our uncles, older cousins, older brothers, older stepkids, all this stuff is imprinting on a woman's psyche, and we have to take responsibility for that. I talked about accountability. We need to hold each other accountable about this type of behavior. I applaud this. You said it was FAMU? Is that what you
Hampton
said?
University. Hampton U.
So
HU, yes.
I applaud that university. I think that I don't know, I would hope that all types of institutions like that are trying to instill this type of thing and
They're an
try to
HBCU, so I think that's a big reason why they did that, because it's about Black excellence.
so
Standard of
I appreciate.
excellence is our tagline. So
I can appreciate that, and I think that those things should continue to be developed and pushed within those universities and in the churches, right? As I mentioned before. So, but we have to do a better job of developing ourselves, taking responsibility for ourselves, creating a sense of excellence, a sense of standard for ourselves as men, that we hold each other accountable, and we have to develop systems of, I don't want to say punishments, but discipline. And when and if someone gets out of code, out of line, out of pocket, and I'm not talking about strictly physical violence, but we have to develop that type of thing so that you can feel protected, so you can know that so you and other ladies can feel protected. So we have to understand the history where this came from, how we got here, and I agree with you. What Bishop Jakes was talking about was a defense mechanism. When women say, I don't need a man, it's a defense mechanism. When they are going back to colleges, getting master's degree PhDs and getting more cats and dogs and stuff, it's a defense mechanism saying, I need some type of relationship. I need someone in here who's going to love me unconditionally. I need something to feel self-worth. No, I know it sounds funny, but I'm serious. This is all types of behaviors. These are all types of behaviors that people are doing and engaging in order to feel loved and worthy and wanted and all that type of thing. And so we men need to respond to that. Get the therapy, get the help, get the education, get what we need to get, and that way we can present ourselves as whole, individual, real persons who have something to give and have something to pour into. So we can actually be a protector. We can actually be a provider. We can actually do these types of things. So again, I'm going to say it starts with the men. We have to get ourselves together. It's one of the things I'm working on. I'm putting together some classes right now. I'm going to be offering on my own platform there because I think this is really, really important. We got to get this together. Otherwise, as Bishop Jake said, I agree with him. We're losing our families and we're losing our communities, and it's going to continue to be a straight shot downhill. And we gotta turn this thing around. It can be done. It's going to take work, effort, but it can be done.
it can definitely be done. And I will say, I'm happy you mentioned therapy. We're going to have to wrap up in a couple of minutes. We've been here almost an hour and a half. The folk like they still talking. But therapy plays a part. God and therapy, okay? There's nothing wrong with therapy, y'all. The Bible says he's a wonderful counselor. He said we're made in his image. That means there are some people he gave the gift of counsel. A therapist is okay. It's fine. I'm in therapy myself, and it's one of the best decisions I've made. I'm happy for it. She keeps it. She comes from your generation, so she's very upfront. She don't Kimberell it, but she do tell it like it is. And I appreciate that from her. To close out, were there any questions? Anybody that's watching had any questions you had for us before we kind of wrap it up and put a knot on it? We'll give you all a quick second if you have any questions to put them in the chat, because we didn't have y'all for a very long time. This is I feel a very purposeful conversation, which is what I'm happy about, to be able to get different views on these topics that have been making the airwaves and the internet waves, if you want to put it that way, but they really speak to bigger issues, speaking to bigger stuff. They went viral because they triggered stuff with people because it speaks to bigger issues. Normally stuff triggers something when there's a bigger issue it speaks to. One last call for any questions. And while we're looking for any questions, were there any final words that you had at this time, Mr. Hunter? And please also tell the people where they can find you.
Well, first, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm on IG, CPT L Hunter. That's Captain L Hunter. Instagram, I have let's see, TikTok, I think it's CPT L Hunter. I've started doing some TikTok videos. I'll talk about the same thing. Yeah. Well, not those types. I'm trying to, not those types. I don't have any coordination or anything. So I'm just trying, again, I'm just trying to help young men be where they need to be. Like I said, I'm putting together some information, some classes, things like that. That'll be coming probably later on in the fall. Just working on it now. Really started this. But I have a podcast right now. It's Captain Hunter's podcast. Actually, it's been changed to Hunter's podcast, which I'm going to continue to talk about men stuff and how to get that together. That's on YouTube. On the audio podcast, if you search for Captain Hunter's podcast, you will find some audio podcasts that I talked about. It's a lot of police stuff, but the newer stuff that are going forward is going to be very much separated, and it's going to be all, the vast majority is going to be men stuff. Get ourselves together. Stop dumping on the women. Stop looking at the women. Stop trying to point the finger at women. I think that's been a very harsh critique of the manosphere, so-called, trying to dump on them, saying that they're not doing this. They won't hold themselves accountable. They want this. They want that. Well, why do they want these things? Why do they have these types of defense mechanisms? Let's take a look at ourselves as men, and let's get ourselves together. So you can reach out to me, cptlhunter@gmail.com. You want to email me, but those are the platforms where I'm at. And thanks for having me again. So.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Well, that's it for today. You can find me here on Instagram and also on TikTok at the official BTM podcast. On Twitter, we're at official BTM pod. We are now on YouTube, and this episode we will actually have it here on Instagram, and it will also be on YouTube. Also, we will be making this into an audio version. You'll be able to also hear this on the show, and I'll be putting the link tree up in the link in bio on tonight, so that way you can subscribe to all those platforms. Find a place, you just go in, click the buttons and everything. But I thank you all for joining us. This has been a very fruitful and purposeful conversation, which I appreciate. We can have discussions and agree to disagree, and it not, turn into a shouting match. You know what I'm saying? We can do it if we come with the right spirits. I thank y'all so much for joining me. I hope you all have a blessed day, and I guess that's it for tonight. Thank you so much once again, Captain Hunter, for joining us and speaking your true opinions. We appreciate that. We appreciate your boldness.
Anytime. Listen, it's got to be said. So I appreciate you having me on. I really do. It was fun. I appreciate it.
Of course. I'm happy you enjoyed yourself. And to everybody watching, we will see you all later. Peace.